Hello and welcome to another episode of Bailiwick Podcasts. I'm Jodie Yettram and today I will be speaking with Yvonne Corbin, the CEO of a local food charity called Caring Cooks, which has this week celebrated its 10th anniversary. The charity aims to combat food poverty and promote healthy eating habits across the island. And Yvonne has shared with me the triumphs and the challenges faced by Caring Cooks across the decade. On today's episode, we'll discuss the prevalence of food insecurity in Jersey, where families are increasingly relying on cheaper and more processed foods due to what she calls a cost of living emergency. Additionally, she talked about how a lack of access to nutritious foods is impacting the cognitive development of young people. Hi Yvonne, thank you so much for being here today to chat with me. You're the CEO of a food charity called Caring Cooks, which has this week celebrated its 10-year anniversary, which is really exciting. So just to dive straight in, since you've been involved with the charity in 2020, what do you think are the key food issues in Jersey?
Yeah, hi Jodie, and thank you for having me. So I joined the charity at a very different time. I joined bang in the middle of the COVID pandemic. So I didn't really have much to go on kind of pre-COVID. But what I have seen is that it's created a lot of anxiety in the public. Children have obviously missed time off at school. So there's difficulty around that. And because we work predominantly in schools, we can see quite a lot of those differences since we've kind of gone back to a normal Jersey, so to speak.
What do you think is like the key issues that are like affecting the island since the pandemic?
Yeah. What I can tell you from every day, what we're seeing every day, is that it's not just a certain group. It's not just the lower socioeconomic group. It's affecting families across the island. And that, we've had the COVID pandemic. We've had the cost of living. People call it a crisis. I call it an emergency. We've had food increases, and it's all of these put together, all of these combined has had such a detrimental effect on families. We've had, interest rates soaring. So people who have bought properties are not able to pay their mortgage anymore. So they're having to sell their properties. They're having to take on extra jobs. All of this affects, good nutrition in families. There might not be that spare income, that disposable income to be able to buy, the healthier food. A lot of people we find are going towards the cheaper foods. They're going towards packaged, highly processed foods. And we can see the difference that is making within our school settings with those younger children. We can see differences in, their behaviour before lunchtime and then their behaviour after lunchtime. We have this anecdotally as well from our schools.
What do you think are the negative consequences of not receiving adequate nutritious meals, especially for young people? You mentioned maybe difficulties in paying attention, but if you could just talk about, maybe the short-term and longer-term consequences of not having access to nutrition at a young age.
Yeah, we're already seeing from the latest Jersey Child Measurement Programme report, so that was 2022 to 2023, that the childhood obesity rates are really quite alarming. With that, you've got the difficulties of attention in schools. You've got children that can't hold that. They haven't got that attention span because they're not having adequate food. Quite often we're having children that come into school and they've not had any breakfast. That's always happened in schools, but now it's more prevalent. We can see more breakfast clubs popping up in schools. We have more companies that are supporting schools in financing breakfast clubs. I had a meeting today with one of our suppliers saying, how can we work together to get more breakfast into your schools? it really is across the board. And what we are seeing is that parents are becoming increasingly frustrated because their children are kind of getting used to those processed ready meals. You know, people aren't using electricity because it's so expensive, so they'll put something in the microwave rather than oven cooking it and slow cooking. You know, so they can see the difference in their child's behaviour as well. You get to that stage where you just don't know what to do. And that's something that we're addressing within Caring Cooks. We are reaching out to parents within schools, and we've just piloted a course for parents to help in those situations.
Mm-hmm. And in addition to sort of educating in schools and educating parents about the value of nutritional meals, you've also introduced a school meals initiative in a number of schools. So if you could tell me a bit about that, about the sort of children that might receive a free school meal and about what the benefits of that are.
Okay, so this is an initiative that we started a few years ago with the government of Jersey. We recognised, you know, there isn't adequate food in schools. I mean, I don't know if many people are aware of this, but primary schools in Jersey were not built with kitchens, so there was no setting for children to sit down and have a hot meal. So we kind of lobbied government in that respect and said, listen, you know, what can we do about this? We're happy, you know, to mobilise this and see what the results are. And, you know, the results are astounding, really. So we started off with 2 schools. We're now in 6 primary schools. We cook our meals fresh every day from our central kitchen, and we deliver them out hot, so they're eaten within an hour of leaving, kind of an hour and a half of leaving the kitchen, sitting down for a hot meal. We keep it at temperature, and the uptake is really significant. It's quite difficult to please every child in every school because they're eating different things in the evenings, and if you have a child that isn't used to home-cooked meals, for instance, it's quite difficult to change those behaviours. But we can see that increasingly they are changing those behaviours. We used to provide puddings in schools, you know, not the sticky toffee puddings that I had when I was a child, but, you know, it was a pudding made with 50% fruit. We've removed that completely, and we've gone to just whole fresh fruit, and the uptake in a lot of our schools are astounding. So we can see the difference that it's making. It's easier for parents. They don't have to worry about, you know, providing that hot meal or that lunchbox. You know, it's the way forward, really. And if I had my way, I would have hot school meals in every single school, and I would make it mandatory so that those behaviours can be changed in those early years. And
I read that you have different initiatives in schools, such as obviously educating children around the importance of eating healthy, and that also you have some sort of gardening initiative, some sort of growing initiative. I don't know if that was one from past years or if that's still ongoing, but I wonder if you talk about that and about the importance of children sort of engaging with the life cycle of food, you know, from growing crops, getting their hands dirty, how that can maybe make them excited about eating healthy and about eating local foods.
Yeah, that was an initiative that actually became, it came before our educational programs in schools. So we set up 2 kitchen garden projects, and it was derived from Jamie Oliver's initiative all those years ago. And we kind of copied the model and said, right, well, how is it going to make a difference in our schools? It was highly successful. You know, the children would grow. They love getting their hands dirty. They love to see things grow. I mean, anyone who remembers their childhood, if you were growing something in school, it was so exciting. That hasn't changed. You know, children do want to know where their food is coming from. They want to see it grow. They want to know what they're eating. And you know, it's amazing how many children will eat or they'll try something that they've grown. Whereas if you gave them something that they'd never seen before, you know, quite rightly so, they'd say, oh, I don't know about, you know, trying that one. So it was an amazing initiative. We had, you know, pizza ovens in our kitchen gardens, so that the produce that they were creating, that they were growing, they would make pizzas from it. It was really successful. The problem that we had with that program was that we had to rely on people to look after those plots. And as soon as COVID came along, it kind of all fell apart a little bit. There was nobody that was able to go and nurture those gardens. And, you know, it's an age-old problem with charities. Trying to get volunteers is really, really difficult. So we kind of parked that for a time. But during that time, we also implemented our Let's Get Cooking program, which is a cross-curricular program. We started off in 5 schools. We go into the schools and we teach a program for years 1 to year 6, so that by the time a primary school child leaves that primary school setting, they've got 30 recipes under their belt. It gives them that passion, or, you know, it gives them the opportunity to have that passion for food and for the hospitality industry. And that's still running now, and, you know, really, really exciting. We have a plan to be able to grow that project and get it into every single primary school who want it, you know, the primary schools that want it, over the next 3 years. So that's really, really exciting for us.
And have you also recently started a course with the restaurant Samphire? Is that a separate course?
That's a bit separate. Yeah, that's a little bit separate. I mean, obviously, we're a really agile charity, and we try to go where the need is. And we've kind of identified that there's a cohort of young people that might not have had the opportunity to learn the basics of cooking. You know, even things like, you know, shopping, preparing a shopping list, shopping effectively, you know, meal planning, that kind of thing. Navigating the supermarket even, you know, can be quite daunting to a young person. Mm-hmm. So we created a 6-week course just to address, you know, every kind of element, from writing a list to actually tasting the food at the end of it. That course is being run by Christian Gott, who is known as the Island Chef. We haven't started that course yet. We've reached out to certain groups of people for that course. So that will be up and running as soon as we get that, you know, the people into the course, the young people into the course. But that's really exciting as well. And Samphire, you know, they've been great in giving us their space for free. You know, they're really standing by what we do, and they really believe in what we do, and they're passionate about it as well. So it's a perfect partnership.
Mm-hmm. It sounds like you've just had so many initiatives over the years that are all amazing and sort of addressing different areas of the problem, from sort of short-term emergency assistance to like long-term systematic change, and, you know, inspiring young people to be excited about eating healthy. And I thought it was really interesting what you said about, you know, going shopping. Because I remember when I went to university and, you know, I was buying all my own food, I was just buying like all the wrong things, like way too much of this ingredient, and that would go out of date. And then, I don't know, I just found it sounds silly, but I actually found it really, really hard. And that's not even something that you'd even think about. You've had so many great initiatives. So I just wanted to sort of go back to the beginning, 10 years ago. Mm-hmm. How did the initiative start? Who was responsible for starting the charity, and how did it begin?
So Melissa Nebrega was a young Jersey mum. She doesn't actually live here anymore. She lives in Australia. She handed her third child, as she called it, to me back in 2020. But she started it in 2014, and she recognised that there were families out there that could do with some support, really. You know, just a bit of respite from, you know, working hard, raising young, small children, the daily pressures of life, financial difficulty. So she started cooking a meal for one family in particular on a Saturday when she was cooking a family meal, and it kind of grew from there. You know, the need was recognised amongst other groups of people. Some more volunteers came forward and said, well, actually, I'd like to do that. I can cook an extra meal. So a Facebook group was formed, and it was called Care and Cooks for Jersey. And, you know, people could offer on certain days to cook a meal, and they'd be cooking for, I don't know, 3 families, 2 families, just one family. And then it kind of grew from there, and she became very aware that there was huge need in Jersey. Despite, you know, when you come into Jersey, you see the nice private jets and the yachts and the housewives of Jersey, if you want to call it that. There is a definite need out there that has gone unrecognised. So that's kind of how it started, and then it grew into a need for education, because what she tried to do was to offer adult courses, family courses. For whatever reason, that didn't work, and then the problem she flipped it on its back and thought, well, actually, how about we educate the children? Rather than educating the parents, we educate the children. We start from there, and we kind of instill it in children, the importance of good nutrition, which is how the Let's Get Cooking program started. So within those cooking sessions, it's not just about cooking. The children learn how to count. They learn how to read recipes, weigh in and measure in. So you've got the maths element in there. You've got the history of where the food comes from, the geography, and the science around cooking. So, we're hitting all of those really, really essential subjects within that program. And they don't even realise they're learning, because they're just having fun cooking.
And just going back to one of sort of your first initiatives, which I think was the weekly meals service to sort of vulnerable families, I wanted to ask how demand might have changed for that service over the years, especially during COVID, and how many families were receiving these weekly meals.
So before COVID, we were cooking around 30 meals a week. For families. So we work on a referral service. So we don't identify the families from our side. They come in on a referral system. So other charities, it could be a GP, even it could be schools. Anyone who can identify that there might be a family in need would refer into us. So we were looking at about 30 meals per week. That was steady for a long, long time. And then COVID hit, and we kind of pivoted our service into a daily service. So volunteers came forward. And I don't know if you remember, but I, in a weird way, I really enjoyed COVID and lockdown, because the whole community came together to help each other. And that's what happened with our weekly meal service. It turned into a daily meal service, and all these people were offering money, they were offering their time, their support. And we actually, over that 3-month period, we cooked and delivered over 10,000 meals. So that was the start, really. And then as soon as we kind of got over that COVID hump, then the cost of living crisis, we had the war in Ukraine, food prices were increasing. It just seemed impossible. We saw it with our school meals, trying to navigate cost and suppliers when, we were not getting as much food onto the island. It kind of changed the shape for us of Jersey, really. So we could see our waiting lists getting longer for our weekly meal service. We do still have those waiting lists. And we do get a lot of feedback from people and our referrers saying, we've never seen anything like this before. We've never had this much demand for food services. Even the food banks, we're reading every day about food banks. The demand is incredible, and something needs to be done about this. I'm an advocate for removing GST from food. That would be the first step, I think, that we could do. But yeah, there's an ongoing demand. I can't see that it's going to get any better. We've had to reshape our weekly meal service now so that we can reach more people. The barrier that we have is trying to get volunteers to deliver the food. We can make that food, we can fundraise to buy the food. We can find people to cook the food. What we can't find is people to deliver the food. So we're now going to be partnering with Brighter Futures, and we're going to cook more food so it reaches more people, but those people can come and collect their food rather than us having to rely on delivery drivers.
If people would like to get involved and sort of sign up to help, how would they go about doing that?
We've got a volunteer page on our website, so careandcooksofjersey.com. You can you can sign up to, I mean, we will literally need just more people in the kitchen now, because we'll be cooking more food. We don't need delivery drivers because, like I said, we're going to change the model of the service. It will make it a lot easier. And if there's any food waste, it goes straight to those families at Brighter Futures. Mm-hmm. You know, it's based there. There'll be no food waste. You know, in case a family can't collect for whatever reason, that food will not be wasted. It will go to a vulnerable family. So yeah, I can see that charities are changing up the way that they work to be able to reach more families.
And with regards to the food waste issue, waste from supermarkets and stuff like that, I wonder if you could sort of talk about how that might contribute to the problem, or how there might be a better solution. I know there are sort of some apps that are quite useful for, you know, people can go and collect maybe leftover food. I don't know too much about it, so if you could maybe tell me a little bit more about how food waste comes into the food insecurity issue.
Yeah, it's a difficult one. And the reason I say it's difficult is because there are a lot of barriers to repurposing food. So, for instance, you know, our sister company, Flourish, runs school food in primary and secondary schools. We're not allowed to take any of that waste. If there's waste, we're not allowed to take it off the premises for health and safety reasons. You know, food safety is massive here, and as it should be. So it's really difficult to know what to do with food. It just so happened that I had a conversation this morning with a food supplier who's trying to address this, and we've had lots of conversations around, you know, what can we do here? How can we make it better? How can we turn wasted food into food for vulnerable people? You know, food for the elderly, food for families that might be going through financial difficulty. How do we distribute it to parishes, different parishes? What we need is one central unit. So all suppliers bring whatever they have left over. It needs one central unit. All of the food suppliers send their waste to that central unit, and then it's converted into food. So Meals on Wheels, it could be our weekly meal service. It could be, you know, age concern. You know, there are so many families out there. If they were able to go somewhere to find this food, to take it for free, it solves every single problem, right? Logistically, it's a nightmare. And until we have a unit, and I think it has to be driven by government, then there's not really a lot we can do. We've got things like Olio, but Olio is purely run by volunteers, and those volunteers have to store that food in their own properties. They've got to go out and collect it in their own vehicles. There are massive barriers to that. And there's kind of no control as to who gets that food, who receives that food. It's a brilliant initiative, but it doesn't solve the problem because there aren't enough people able to assist in that. You know, there's no kind of control around it, I guess. There needs to be a solution, and there needs to be a solution soon. So I'm working with the likes of Co-op, Sheena Brocky, we're kind of trying to put our heads together and find a solution, but these things do take time. But there is a lot of waste on the island. I think the stats would really shock people as to how much the supermarkets are wasting.
And you mentioned the need for a central unit. That leads quite nicely onto my next question, which was going to be, what are sort of your future plans? Would that be something that would be a goal? Or?
Yeah. So we've got to kind of where we want to be with our programs. We know the people that we need to support and the groups that we need to support. We're educating children. We've got a plan to extend that. You know, we're doing everything that we can. But the dream, the future dream is to have our own educational hub. I mean, Care and Cooks are all about education. You know, that's where it starts. You know, even you saying about, I didn't know where to start when, you know, I was at uni and I'm in the supermarket. You know, even that needs some education around it, you know, and we can very, very easily do that. We can provide that, but we can't keep scratching around for workspaces to be able to do this, you know, knocking on people's doors saying, oh, can we use your kitchen? And, you know, we need a kitchen during the day. We need a kitchen in the evenings. We need a kitchen at weekends. You know, we want to be able to do so much. We want to be able to support family groups. We want to be able to support children after school clubs, holiday clubs, teaching them, the basic, the essential, well, absolutely everything that, we need to live, we need to live and breathe. So if a child doesn't know about food education, what hope have we got? We only have food education in the schools that we're in, as far as I'm concerned. Some secondary schools are absolutely fantastic with their food technology. We used to call it home economics. They don't call it that anymore. But, I loved home economics. You just don't see it very much now. So if we had one central education hub, we could do all of this. The world is our oyster, and we want to reach absolutely everybody. Single parents, men who don't know how to cook, kids going off to university. We could support with all of that. We've got everything we need. We just need a space. And people that might be reading this or listening to this might think, oh, but there's loads of hotels closing down. We've literally looked at everything. We need something like a community centre. We need something that's accessible to people, that's central for people, for it to work. So I am manifesting that, and we will find one one day. But yeah, it's going to take time, because we do need the right space. But we have massive dreams, and we're going to keep on going until we fulfil them. Absolutely.
Yeah, it sounds like that's something that's absolutely necessary, because you've got all these amazing ideas, and you just need sort of a base and a permanent space that can sort of be the hub for all these amazing initiatives. You've mentioned a number of sort of partners that you've worked with over the years, such as Flourish and, recently Samfire. I was just wondering if you wanted to sort of mention a few, or, share a message of thanks to anyone who's helped you over the 10 years of your charity.
Where do I start?
Sorry, that's a bit of a tricky one, 'cause the list is endless, probably.
I've got so many. Do you know what? When we create an impact report every year, and just a snapshot of what we've been doing and the successes, and we all say thank you on the back page to whoever's supported us that year. And every year I'm astounded. I mean, I've only done it for 3 years, but every year I'm astounded at the amount of people that do support us. So I couldn't name every single one of them. I have to say, Jersey Community Foundation are absolutely fantastic support. They're amazing to deal with. They understand the need. They're fantastic. Association of Jersey Charities are fantastic. Co-op are fantastic. We've got people like La Colette and Valley Foods. They support us massively. We're not just buying food from them; they're supporting us in our charity initiatives as well, which sometimes goes unnoticed. We've got great people like Apex, who've supported us in the past. They've supported us through our food and fuel voucher schemes that we've run for the last couple of years. We've got a new corporate partner called Altum Group, who I'm really, really excited about. They absolutely get what we're doing. They're all about children and education, and in particular, those community projects that we're doing around food. So we're absolutely aligned with them. So we've got lots of plans with them coming up, and that's really, really exciting. We've got we've got so many people that do support us. They're constantly in touch. Is there anything we can do to help? This is amazing what you're doing. How can we support? I just feel like our brand is getting out there now, and people are really understanding what it is we're doing. I think there was a little bit of confusion around school meals. Are you a charity, or do you just do school meals? What do Caring Cooks do? I think I've kind of separated the two, or I've started to separate the two, so that there's no real confusion. We've got Caring Cooks that support education and community projects, and then we've got Flourish, which is a subsidiary of the charity, which works as a social enterprise, and that's based around school food and their contracts that we run for government. So yeah, there are lots of people to say thank you to. Government of Jersey, the Sykes team are absolutely fantastic. I work very much in partnership with them now. It's not just there's a contract, fulfill the contract. We do absolutely work in partnership. Yeah, there are so many. And if I've missed anyone out, I'm so sorry, but I've probably missed about 50. If you know, you know. I've missed out about 50 people, I'm sure. Other charities, Brighter Futures are so fantastic.
Yeah.
We work so well with them. It's amazing.
That's the thing about Jersey. Obviously, there are these huge issues, but the sense of community is so strong. It's like you mentioned with the pandemic and everyone pulling together, and more recently with the storm. It
takes a crisis, doesn't it, for it to come through?
Yeah. But no, it's so nice to hear that so many people are so supportive of your charity. I think you're just doing great things, especially with driving change from the bottom up, educating young people and sort of changing the way they think about food and helping parents. I think it's a really great initiative, and I've really enjoyed hearing about it. So thank you so much. I know you weren't feeling very well today, but you've been great, and thank you so much.
Thank you.
It's really interesting.
Thank you. My brain's a little bit mush today, and I feel like I struggled for words. But it's been lovely to talk to you. There's so much more that I can talk about. But I'll be here all day because a lot of people who know me know that I'm quite vocal and I've got a lot to say. But I will leave you in peace.
I just have one more question, if that's okay. I should have asked this at the start.
Yeah.
But how did you sort of get into this role? I'm not really sure what your background was before this, but I was just interested to see how you sort of got involved with working for a food charity.
Yeah, do you know what? I'll take you on a really short whistle-stop tour. I've done quite a lot in my life. I came to Jersey in 1990, and I worked in the tourism industry, which is sadly in decline now. I then went into finance, banking and trust. I've actually trained as a gymnastics coach. Within that time, I've trained as a beauty therapist. I've worked in lots of different places. I've been in retail. I helped set up a music festival in Jersey, which I got really, really involved in the last kind of 10 years. And then I went into marketing. And from marketing, I went into this, but it was never something that was on my radar. I just so happened to have a meeting with Melissa Nebrega, and she asked me to be an ambassador for the charity because I found it quite not easy, but quite natural to talk about the charity and raise funds for the charity. So I couldn't go in as a fundraiser, but I said, I'm happy to shout about the charity and be that kind of charity champion for you, which I did for a short while. And then she asked me to join the board of directors. So I joined the board. And then out of the blue, she asked me if I'd take over the charity for her because she wanted to emigrate to Australia.
Wow.
Which was really quite bizarre because all I'd been on the board, I hadn't worked for a charity before. I'd not even been, in a fundraising position or, I had my marketing background, but I didn't even have a lot of that. So, I was like, okay, well, that's a weird one. I have no experience. And she said, no, you'll be absolutely fine. You're the right person for the job. So, I took counsel from a few friends and my mentor at the time. And he said, it's what you were born to do. So just do it. So here I am,
wow,
3 years down the line, nearly 4 years down the line, and it's been an eye opener. I never, people say to you when you say, I work for a charity, is that full time? It's all the time. No, it's not full time. It's not part time. It kind of takes over your life because when you're so passionate about what you do, it becomes your life. And it's quite hard to get that balance back because you don't see it as work. You just see it as, this is what you're doing and this is what you're meant to do. So you've just got to keep going. I've built up the team. I've got a fantastic board. I've got a fantastic management team. So I could not do this job without the people that I have around me. They're the ones that are making this happen. So I'm so grateful.
Oh, that's amazing. Well, it sounds like you've got an absolutely amazing team, and all of you're doing such amazing things for the island and to make it a better and, more equal place.
You.
So thank you for all your amazing work, and thank you so much for speaking to me.
No problem at all.
Thank you for tuning in to this episode of Bailiwick Podcasts. And a big thanks to Yvonne for sharing her journey with us and for her amazing work in creating a healthier and more inclusive island.